America really embraced that record. You know, magazines like Rolling Stone, who had never been kind to W.A.S.P in the past, just loved that record. So what we learned, and we've known this for a long, long time, that you have Europe, you have Asia, you have North America, South America, that when you get ready to do an album, some places are going to like some records and some places aren't. You can never serve all these different masters. So if you have one part of the world that likes one record but the rest of it doesn't, who do you make that record for? You make it for yourself. Because that's the only way you can truly be happy. Success is great, but I would rather... K.F.D. to me was written by two really, really angry guys. Chris and I had both just come out of really, really bad relationships. Chris had divorced Lita Ford, and I had just come out of a 3-year relationship with a girl that she comes to me after 3 years and tells me she's gay. Well, so Chris and I get back together, and to say that we wanted to kill everybody is an understatement. I mean, we were pissed at the world. We could have easily called that album Hate, and it would have been a perfect title for that album, because we were just really pissed. You know, and I say pissed in the American sense, not the English, you know, being drunk. Although we did that too. But we went out and we did that record, and then we did the tour, and when it was done, we were mixing for the live album. And it was interesting because it was kind of like that album and that tour was cheap therapy. You know, we did that, and it's like, and the anger really wasn't the same anymore. And I remember telling Chris, we were listening to the mixes of the live album, and I said, you know, this is a really simple record. It's 2 guitars, bass, and drums. Why don't we do this again? But even a statement like that, I couldn't have made that 2 years before because my head just wasn't in that place. You know, in America, you know, we got an expression, if you can see it, you can be it. Well, we couldn't see that then, you know. I mean, I think a lot of people think El Dorado is probably the record we would have made when we got back together, but that was just not where our heads were at that time. Like I said, I mean, you know, there's a line in one of the songs from K.F.D, the song You, it goes, I lie in bed fantasizing your death, you know, and that was my ex I was talking about, you know. It's like I was I was ready to be the next O.J. Simpson, I'm telling you, you know, it's like, and both of us were, so. But, you know, if you look back through our career, we've made records that reflect who we are. It's pretty easy to go back and look at any one of our records and tell pretty much what we were thinking right at that moment, you know. We're not a band that makes the same record over and over again. For groups that do that, if they like it and their fans like it, then that's great, you know, but it's just, it's not what we really do. You know, I always wanted to try to make records where people could get on the inside of my head and really, really see what was going on, both the good and the bad. Because unless you're willing to do that, really willing to be that honest with your fans, then they're never going to feel like they know you intimately. And to me, that's more important than just making the same record over and over.
You say we all the time, but you do write all the music yourself, right?
Well, I did on this record, but it's not what I do all the time. What we do is everybody brings in ideas. I mean, Stet's idea was El Dorado, you know, so everybody brings ideas in. As far as the songwriting, if this is a record where I wrote the actual songs, then great. But you know, it's everybody brings ideas in, and whatever gets used is the best is what gets used. So it doesn't really, we don't care where it comes from.
This new album is a kind of a hard rock and roll album. Do you feel that you're going back to your roots now?
Well, when we were mixing the live album, I was building a house, and when the house was finished, I had lots of stuff in boxes because I was living in a hotel, and I discovered some of the original demo tapes that we had, and what it was stuff from, was this Grand Prix in here? What we had was the original demo tapes before we did our first album. And it had I Want to Be Somebody and Love Machine and School Days and all that stuff. And I thought, I wonder what these sound like. So I put them on and I listened to them and I was shocked. And I called up Chris and I said, I think you need to hear these. And he says, are they really bad? And I said, no. I said, these things are magic. You know.
Well, I got a question concerning the demo tapes, because there's a song called 1980s Ladies.
That was from something that was Randy Piper and I did that. That wasn't the original demos that Chris and I did.
Okay, can you please tell me about that song? Because I heard it on a Kiss album, and that's really weird. So.
Another one that we're not getting any money for.
But it's a great song anyway.
It's a really good song.
Well, I wrote that in '79. There was a little window period where Chris and I didn't work together, and I was working with Randy Piper, and that was something that we had done. You know, just it was a song that I'd written, and that came out of that session. But the session that I'm talking about is something that Chris and I did in like mid '82. And I went back and I listened to that stuff and it freaked me out. And I said, you know, maybe this is what we should do. But even now, see, it's hard for me to try to get you to understand the whole picture of what's happening here, because I remember saying to Chris, you know, this is a simple record, 2 guitars, bass, and drums. Why don't we do this again? Well, even to make a simple statement like that, I couldn't have made that statement 2 years before that because my head just wasn't in the right place. You know, and everybody says, you know, why'd you go back to doing this? I said, because we reached a point where it was kind of like, and the story that I tell everybody, I says, it's like seeing an old girlfriend you haven't seen for a long time walking down the street, and she's looking really good, and you're thinking to yourself, why ain't I fucking her no more? You know, and you don't have a reason. You just think, why don't I start doing that again? You know, and it's really no more complicated than that. You know, it's like you miss it. But okay, I think you're starting to understand the picture that when your head is not in the right place, you can't even think those kind of thoughts. So you have to get to a point where, okay, 15 years into our career now, we feel like we've gone full circle. And to come back to the beginning takes a lot of courage, because, okay, if you've had a record like K.F.D. that's been well received in one country, you don't know what's going to happen in the rest of the world. And you have the key word that I use here is relaxed. You have to get to a point where you're relaxed financially, emotionally, spiritually, to say, okay, I don't care what I did before. I meant that when I said it, but my head, I'm a complex individual, just like all the rest of you here, have many, many emotions. And the mood that you're in today is not necessarily the mood you're in tomorrow. And it was like after we did the K.F.D. tour, it was almost like we had been in a really dark place, and then one day the sunshine came out again. You know, it was like, wow, you know. And I got to tell you, the vibe that surrounds this whole thing right now in rehearsals and things like that, I haven't seen it like that in years. You know, everybody's laughing, having a good time, bullshitting and all that stuff, you know, and it's a cool place to be, because, like I said, when you've made that circle and you come back around again, you go, hey, I just want to have fun again. You know, there was one thought that surrounded this whole album when it was being written and recorded. And it's like, have you ever gone out maybe on a Friday or Saturday night, but before you went out, for whatever reason, you were anticipating what you were going to do, and you thought, you felt really, really good. You were in a great mood, and so you went out and you had a couple of drinks or whatever you do, you know, and it took you to an even higher place where you felt like fucking Superman. You pull your chest open, right? Your shirt. That's the whole vibe that surrounded this whole record. This song on this record called Can't Die Tonight, and that's what it's about. It's like you went right to the fucking edge. You didn't go up, but you're standing there and you're looking over and you go, yeah. You can't get any higher without dying, you know. So that was, it's just, I think I look at this record more, especially from where we came from with the last one, more as a celebration of just the complete 180-degree difference in mood where we were then to where we are now. And although I think K.F.D. is a great piece of art, like I think that and Crimson Idol, two best pieces of art I ever wrote, the feelings that surrounded making El Dorado I prefer, to be honest, you know, because to write something like K.F.D., you gotta, you know, I don't write from a point of view of something I don't understand. And to have to write from something that's painful like that, if I don't ever have to do that again, it won't bother me, you know.
When you started out, you were referred to as a shock rock band, and your last album was very angry, and the show you had on stage was very raw. I guess the attitude on this new album is a bit different. What will we see on stage tonight?
I don't know. Some of this stuff is still in an airport somewhere, and we don't know where it's at.
Really?
Oh yeah. This is like, you know, I've had this dream probably 20 times in my career where I got ready to go out on stage, and it's like, it was just a nightmare. And it's like, and I'm hoping that is not going to be the case tonight, but it's like half of my outfit is not here. Some of the stage props aren't here. I feel like I'm getting ready to go out there with my dick in my hand, and it's like, this is not good. I don't know what's going to happen.
But what about the audience? You've been around for some years. Do you think there are more nostalgic people coming to your show, or do you still see new fans?
It's a mixture. What we're seeing now, it's I went, you know, Ace Frehley's my friend. I went to see Kiss a couple of years ago, a year and a half ago, whatever, and there wasn't as many young people there as I would have thought there would have been. Well, I mean, there was people with their children there, but I'm not talking about that, you know. And it was quite shocking to me to see that, you know, because I've known him since I was 17 years old, you know, and to see that, it's just like, it reminds you that you're getting older, and it's like, I don't remember, you know, I mean, I don't remember us ever going through that phase before, so it's different. So if I don't see any babies in our crowds, I'll be happy, except for the ones we use on stage, you know.
But do you still see you as a music fan? Do you still check out newer bands or things like that?
I don't have the time that I used to have. I mean, where I live north of Los Angeles in an area called Malibu, and I live up in the hills, and I'm on we got a lot of property up there and stuff, and I stay up on that hill for months at a time, and I don't come down, especially when I'm making a record. And everybody asks me, they go, well, what do you think about all the new bands? And I go, I really don't know, because, you know, it's, you know, I tell people, I say, it's like being a car mechanic, and you work on brakes all day long, and then when you go home at night, the last thing you want to do is work on your own brakes. You know, it's just like, you know, I wish I could experience more, but it's like I go into hibernation when I make records, and I just don't come out. And I gotta tell you, you know, I don't tell many people this, is making records for me anymore is not as much fun as it used to be, because I obsess more. You know, I made a bad record one time, and it's just, I have this fear of making another one that's not good, and it's just, I can't live with that thought. So where I used to be, you know, like, it just wasn't as intense. It's intense all the time now, you know, and I'll work sometimes 2 or 3 months and won't take a day off, and it's like until the point where I just physically collapse, and it takes me a week or 2 to get back on my feet again. And it's just, I gotta find a way to strike a happy medium in between, you know, between where I was and where I am now, you know, and if I can do that, then I'll be happier.
You've been around for many years now.
Last one for you.
I almost feel like you're part of my childhood, actually.
I had nothing to do with that.
When you hear bands today playing, do you sometimes hear that they may be influenced by W.A.S.P?
Oh yeah. I mean, there's some obvious bands out there, but you know, I didn't invent this stuff. You know, rock and roll is a very cannibalistic, incestuous, if you like. Sort of art form. You know, it was all taken from the blues originally, and white guys stole it from black guys, and now black guys are sampling and stealing it back from whitey now, and you know, so there's this vicious circle that goes on. But I think the most important thing is, you know, when we first started, sure, we were stealing from people, or borrowing, whatever word you want to use, but I think the most important thing is, like, it's okay to do that in the beginning, but you really, after your first record or two, you really do have to start putting some, you got to make a contribution. You can't just steal. You know, you have to leave your own mark, and I don't think you're going to last as long as we have without doing that, you know. So you know, like I said, everybody borrows from everybody, but you know, what are you going to add to it when you're gone? You know, did you make some sort of significant contribution? I think that's important. But as far as other bands, I mean, it's pretty obvious. I mean, there's some real obvious guys out there, you know, that have borrowed from us. Well, it's flattering to me. You know?
Okay.
Take it.
Okay. You were talking about going back, and of course you have done that in music style, playing. I would say probably more like Last Command. And you did a tour in 1986 with Iron Maiden when you were banned here in Norway, and that was back in the beginning.
And I flew in and did a TV show because they wouldn't let me play.
Yeah, and do you find it very hard? No reactions today or anything like that? I mean, being back where you are.
What do you mean, no reaction?
Well, the media, no banning of the band, no.
Well, my first reaction is to say, well, wait till they see what we're doing tonight. You know,
that's my
but
next
not
question.
all of that is going to be here tonight. I'm really disappointed about it.
That's really my next question. What are we going to see?
I don't want to, you know, I don't want to ever have W.A.S.P be some trip down memory lane. You know, it's like I want to try to bring something new every time that you haven't seen. See, you got to understand is that Chris and myself, we have a wicked sense of humor. You know, very dark sense of humor. I mean, we laugh about regular stuff, but we can have a dark sense of humor too. And what's probably been the most frightening thing about us is people don't know when we're serious and when we're not. You know, and there's some stuff we look at, like what we did. Now, we didn't come up here last time. If they thought what we did before was bad, they should have seen that tour last time. The whole thing with the nun and all that stuff. I mean, well, the Italians went wild, you know, because of the Catholic influence. And the same thing in Spain. And that actually hurt us down there because that show was so realistic looking. If you could have seen the way that happened, that nun was on the cross. And
just in pictures.
Well, it was a real person. And some of it was an illusion, some of it was not an illusion. And it was about half and half. And when the part that really got them was the baby, you know, and they just lost their fucking minds over that, you know. But when we first came up with the idea, I remember rolling on the floor laughing, you know, because I thought it was fucking hysterical, you know. But a lot of people just don't get that, you know. And I think, you know, most of it's the presentation, the way you're pulling it off. It looks realistic, you know, and people go. It was kind of like when Animal first came out, you know, the whole "fuck like a beast" thing, which what has caused all that censorship in America. It's not the word "fuck" and it's not "beast." But what happened is when we put the two words together, people, you could hear them or watch them, they'd hear it and they'd put a picture together in their head like, fuck, beast. Oh, no, we're not having that. You know, well, it was the image that it created in their heads. And I think that's probably the thing that has made us a lot of what we are because, like I said, they don't know when we're serious and when we're not. And that makes you a truly dangerous band. The most dangerous type, because there's bands out there that, like, I look at a lot of death metal bands and they're like trying to be serious all the time. Well, what I see with that is there's no contrast. If there's no black, there's no white. So it's kind of like a boxer keeping you off balance, you know. If you know what he's going to throw at you every time, you can prepare for it. But when you got somebody you don't know what angle he's coming from, he's always the most frightening.
Can you give me a short story and tell us who's playing in W.A.S.P today for the new listeners?
Well, it's basically the same lineup that played on K.F.D. It's Chris, myself, Mike Duda, the bass player, and Sted Howland. The drummer Stet has been in W.A.S.P. With the exception of myself and Chris, he's been in W.A.S.P. longer than anybody. He's been with me since '91. As a matter of fact, Stet was with me when I did the Crimson Idol tour when we played here in '92.
After K.F.D, you changed the record label from Raw Power to Snapper. And why do you change the label at that time?
Because the president who owned Raw Power left and started Snapper. So we basically, it was a change of name. We just left and went with him. So it's really, the distribution throughout most of Europe is the same. So it was a change, but it wasn't really a change.
What would the mix of the songs on the set today be?
That's a good question. I'd have to see the set list in my head. I think we're doing a medley. I know that starts out with El Dorado, Inside the Electric Circus, and Chainsaw Charlie. And there's a lot of old stuff like Wild Child and I Want to Be Somebody. The new stuff is, from the new album, is El Dorado, Cocaine Cowboys, Dirty Balls, and Damnation Angels.
Is any of you in the band playing in some other project besides the W.A.S.P, or have any solo project?
Well, Chris is, with my encouragement, I've been trying to get him to do this solo thing for a while. And he started last year fooling around with it, playing with some other musicians. Chris has a bunch of stuff that nobody's ever heard. And Chris is a very abstract type guitar player. He has two different styles. He's like me. He has more than just one thing he can do, and he's a big Robin Trower fan, you know. And when he's doing his own thing, it's very abstract, not like what we do, but it's really, really brilliant. And I really encourage him to do some of that. I mean, I don't know if it'd be big, but I think it's a good thing for him to do. You know, I think. You know, he'd be pretty happy with it. And like I said, I don't know if any of you guys would like it when you heard it, but from a musicianship point of view, it's pretty interesting.
I need Blackie to wrap up for dinner, so you guys got to knock out a question each or something when I got to move you along, correct?
Sure. The tour is starting up here in Oslo now, and how long are you going to be on the road now?
We start here, then we're going down south and doing some of the festivals this summer. And we will be here for about, I think 5 weeks. And then we go back to America, and we do America for about 2 months, and then to Asia after that.
What has the response been on the new album?
Too early for me to tell. I mean, it was just released a couple of days ago.
Okay, opening night in
I
Oslo.
better ask you that, guy. You guys.
Yeah, we love it, man.
Okay, it's opening night in Oslo tonight. What can we expect? Fuck,
I don't know. Like I said, when I go back into the dressing room, I'm going to find out what's got here from the airport and what hasn't. So your guess is as good as mine.
That's good. Well, what about the medleys? Do you see this as necessary to get through all your classics?
Yeah, because you got so many people you're going to disappoint. It's the only way. I'll tell you where that came from.
Yeah.
We did it on the live album, as you know.
Yeah, I know.
But I went to a birthday party a few years ago, and it was Stevie Wonder's birthday party. And he did something really, really cool. He was playing at his own birthday party with his band. And he was sitting down, playing his keyboard, and I was sitting on a speaker next to him about as far as I am to you, right? Mm-hmm. And he played for an hour and a half, but it was one entire medley. They played each song for a minute, maybe a minute and a half. And these weren't album tracks. I mean, these are all monster hits. You're the sunshine of my life. I mean, the Superstition. I mean, he went through them all. And it was an hour and a half he played. And it just, when you hit somebody with medleys like that, quick and hard like that, it hits people really hard, and they realize, oh my God, yeah, they did that song too. They did that one and that one and that. You can't, I mean, it's like a jackhammer going, ba, 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 ba. You know, you can't, there's no way you can compete with a really good medley, and I learned that from him.
You never get boring or
No, because you don't give people a chance to get bored, you know, because they listen to it and they go, oh fuck, I forgot about that one, you know, oh shit, it's really good, you know, it's like, so I owe Stevie a debt of gratitude. You know.
You very often put in cover tracks on the shows, and would there be any cover tracks tonight?
Well, we do The Real Me and I Don't Need No Doctor.
You're not doing Mississippi Queen?
No, because it never came. That, you know, I was a big fuck up. I should have put that on The Last Command. Yeah,
Definitely should give some.
I should have, and I fucked up. I didn't. So.
But talking about the singles, you're doing a lot of songs on the singles that are not on the albums.
Right.
And that's really, you know, why you're doing that. It's just for the fans.
Well, there was two reasons, and this is a little complicated, so you have to try to stay with me here. When we signed our original deal with EMI, the way our contract was stated, and this is kind of complicated, but when we did a single, you have an A-side and a B-side, and sometimes you have multiple B-sides. We got paid double for the A-sides, but we didn't get paid at all for the B-sides. And you say, well, what difference does it make? Because if you're getting paid for the A-side, but you get nothing for the B-side, isn't it financially the same at the end of the day? Well, that's true. But the difference being is that if we were using our own songs, really good songs, for B-sides, we weren't getting paid for. We said, okay, let's take them and use them on an album, you know, and do songs we've always wanted to do. And because of that, that ended up being kind of a cool thing for the fans, because it was, you know, things that they probably would have never heard. But it also ended up being good for us too, because both I Don't Need No Doctor and The Real Me were gonna be B-sides, and when we heard them, we went, no, we got to put these on a record. Because I know the mistake that I made with Mississippi Queen, and I said, if we ever do another B-side that ends up really, really good, fuck it, it's going on the album. So we learned the lesson the hard way.
You have re-released almost all the old albums where you have put on a lot of bonus tracks. It's just that for the fans who can't get all the
Exactly, because, you know, in the old days when there was still vinyl, you know, we had to do multiple B-sides, but vinyl doesn't really exist anymore. So we thought, okay, let's take, when we did the remasters, let's take all these tracks that no one in South America or Indonesia or Africa is ever going to be able to hear. Let's take them and put them on, like the songs that came out as B-sides for The Last Command here. All those B-sides that surrounded that album will then go on that remaster. The same thing for the first album, same thing for Headless, or any of the rest of the records. Any of the B-sides that surrounded that particular album or that era are going to go on that.
The new album, will that be as a vinyl as well?
I don't think so. I mean, I don't think anybody in the world is doing vinyl anymore.
Oh yeah.
Oh yes.
You guys are still doing vinyl?
Yeah, or some collective
No
vinyl, that's
shit.
the best thing ever. Best song.
Well, if you get one, give me one, because I'd like to have one. I mean, I could be wrong. I mean, that's just a generalization on my part. But if you guys are still doing vinyl, then maybe they'll do one.
Yeah, that's some of the fans, they're collecting vinyls. But I want to ask you something about the remasters as well, because the sound on the Inside Electric Circus, something went wrong there on the Easy Living. Can you explain that mistake?
You almost blew our speakers. We had it really loud, and it's going to be really clicking.
What happened?
I don't know, there's something electric mistake.
Really?
Really wild.
So they pulled it back from a record company. Just 1,000 copies with some mistakes on it.
Oh, really?
You haven't heard that?
No.
That's
But if
weird.
that's true, then those are collector's items.
Yeah, I just had to go buy them all. So.
Those are more valuable.
Yeah, you're right.